Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast, traders. Starting this forecast off with the DXY, the US dollar index on the weekly chart as expected. As we started to break these highs here, we did break the overall major high on the DXY. If we zoom in on this candle here, we kind of faked out here. Not really a huge fake out yet, but clearly we are wicking back down. I think it's possible next week we even close above here. But like I've been saying and been telling you guys in the last couple of forecasts and to the members as well, now that we've broken up this high, we could see a little bit of downward pressure, some sort of breakout trap to kind of trap the breakout traders. So be mindful of that. But even if we do get a little bit of a pullback, ultimately I think we are headed up here to the 1.10 area. That is my target, is that weekly basically rally base drop area of supply. Beautiful move down from this area. I think it is a key zone that we will most likely see some sort of reaction off of. If I think, I kind of do think the dollar is going to go down long term. That's my opinion. And I think that this will be the supply that we see that move down from. Obviously, we're not just going to just automatically short the dollar up here. We're going to need to see confirmation on some of the lower time frames on some of the other pairs. But I'm just saying, as far as a target goes, we could see a move up to that weekly supply. Like I said, we could see some downward pressure though first. So what is taking place on the lower time frames? Really all we want to be focusing on is this 4-hour chart here. We had an upward trend line located right here from back here. It was looking good. And the supply came in control. The supply was respected, pushed down below the trend line, eventually broke up, broke a new high. That's why we have this new updated trend line. So what we are going to be monitoring now is this 4-hour upward trend line. If you are curious if the dollar is going to continue to rise or fall, this is the trend line we will be watching. To keep it very simple, if this trend line is being respected and holding, we're probably going to be going up. If the trend line breaks, then we could see a move to the downside. But what we need to see with a trend line break is a good area of supply. That would indicate if we do push up again, that we could actually react off the supply and push down. In this instance here, yes, we had an upward trend line. It was looking strong. We broke below it, but there was no supply zone here at all that could have held up price to push down and create a 4-hour downtrend, which would lead to bearishness on the dollar. So we need to be watching this 4-hour upward trend line. If it holds, we're probably going up. If it breaks, it could be the first step in the potential pullback. But if there's a supply zone there, that could be an area we look to potentially trade short on some of the US dollar pairs. So in the meantime, guys, it is going to be pretty much longs on the day trading timeframes on the dollar, as long as this 4-hour trend line is holding on the DXY here. So overall, bullish on the dollar. But like I said, if we break a 4-hour downward trend, or if we break the 4-hour upward trend line, leaving us the supply zone, that could be that pullback we could see on the weekly chart before we eventually potentially go back up to the 110 areas here on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. As you can see, beautiful daily downward trend line and trend indicated with this downward arrow. What is happening here though? We are reacting off a daily demand zone from a long time ago, 1.003. We are wicking out of this demand zone. This demand zone is very, very old. We have to go back a long, long time to find it. It was created back in November of 2022. We are now in November of 2024. So 2 years ago, this zone was created and we are reacting off of it. Can a zone from 2 years ago hold? It can. It's not, I wouldn't really feel comfortable with it, just buying it outright. But who knows? This daily demand zone could be a zone that is respected to get a retracement in the overall downward trend and eventually fall back down. Do I like the zone for longs? Maybe. It's a possibility. We will go down to the 1-hour time frame here in a minute to see what we could be looking for trading for longs. But in the meantime, this daily demand is not bad, but where I think we are ultimately headed, just like the opposite of the dollar, is down to this weekly demand zone, right? This is more of a demand zone I think we could see a move off of, especially since it's in some sort of monthly demand zone as well. So this is really the real demand down here that I think we could react off of for a long shot, for a long move. It doesn't mean we won't see some more sort of move to the upside, especially since we've faked out below this low. People could be trading the breakout short and the banks could be pushing price up higher. So how do we go about and trade the euro at this time? There are a couple options. First, we will look at the 4-hour chart. We have a picture perfect looking 4-hour downward trend line. So I will say, as long as this downward trend line is being respected, you could be looking for day trading shorts on a 15-minute time frame. That is what I'd be doing here on the Euro US dollar. A pullback up to this base drop supply at 1.05 could be potentially used as a short trade as well. A little bit risky because it's not a great looking area of supply. And the nearest zone that I am seeing is on this 1 hour time frame here at 1.046. Little drop, base drop, supply zone, not a bad zone. We could see a move off of that supply zone on the 1 hour chart for shorts. Now remember, if you don't feel comfortable with a entry, stop, a stop loss above and take profit below, you could look for extra confirmation here on a day trading time frame, just like we did on the USDJPY, which you'll see in a little bit. We'll talk about that later, so make sure you stay tuned for that. You could look for a confirmation day trading short inside of here to kind of maximize your risk reward and confirm your entry. But that's a good supply zone there on the Euro US dollar. And like I said, we have downward trends on the daily, the 4 hour chart. So day trading shorts could be good. Now remember, like I said, the daily demand zone is in control. So how would we trade that if you are bullish on the euro? Going back to the 1 hour chart, if we do, let's say we break this supply zone on the 1 hour chart and there's a 1 hour demand zone there, that would be our confirmation trade right there off that 1 hour zone. And I will have that zone on the chart for all the paying members as well if that does take place. I'm not saying this is a good situation to be doing because it is counter trend, but if you want to get in long, I would not be getting in long yet. We need to see some supply zones taken out to then get in long if you absolutely have to get in long and you think that this is the low on the euro. But remember, it's against a daily trend, so it's not really the highest odds things to be doing is trending against that trend. So definitely take longs with a grain of salt, but we definitely need to be waiting for some supply zones to be removed. So for now, that 1 hour supply 1.04 on the 1 hour chart, that's our kind of our key zone to see if it holds or if it breaks. Could be used for shorts, could be used for longs if it ends up being removed. On to the forecast for gold, XAUUSD. Looking at the weekly chart here, we had that massive down week, not massive, but definitely a decent down week, followed by an extremely bullish week. We pretty much canceled out that entire move down. So was this the pullback, and that's all we're going to get on gold? That's the big question for now. It is looking strong on the lower time frames. Onto the daily chart here. But first, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button. It's much appreciated. It would help with the YouTube algorithm. And subscribe if you are new to the channel for more trading tip videos and forecasts. So right now, this daily supply is being removed. That is significant in my opinion. The demand zone that removed it would be all the way down here. Is that a demand zone I would look to get in long at? It's not bad. I do prefer the one a little bit lower as it's kind of a hidden zone. So if we do pull back down to there, we could see that. I'm not saying that that's what's taking place right now, but what I'm seeing is a very clear valley here. And if we break the high, that'll give us a beautiful daily trend. So with this daily supply zone taken out, that's pretty much all that's going to hold up price. I don't see any supply there at all as far as how I look at zones. So it is looking strong. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of zones. If you look on the 1 hour time frame, you can see we have a beautiful picture perfect upward trend line here in the 1 hour time frame. Just absolutely beautiful. No zones that I feel comfortable pointing out, even though yes, I do have a zone here. There's a zone down here. I just don't know if we're going to get there, but I don't feel comfortable pointing out this zone. I draw a lot of zones just for the sake of having a zone to see what removes it. This is not really a tradable zone in my opinion. I'm not going to get into detail about that. But what I will say is if you're a day trader, you're in luck. As long as this upward trend line is holding on a 1 hour time frame, you could be looking for 5-minute time frame longs. Now we also have a lot of momentum on the 4 hour time frame as well. So you could be looking for longs as well. Maybe down here in this 4 hour demand zone at 26.36, kind of the nearest area for a potential long trade. Another couple options here. If you're bearish, and I mean, I don't mind the idea of being bearish, you can see we have a very, very clear, let me just get my proper thing here. We have a very, very clear area of resistance that was formed right here, kind of reacting off of it again with a supply zone above, a drop-based drop at 27.21. So it is possible we can see a move off of this supply to the downside. So if you're bearish on gold, which is very counter trend, that's fine. I like to point out both sides of the equation. What would you be doing? What would I be doing if I was looking for shorts? What would I be doing if I was looking for longs? Well, if I was looking for longs, I would be, like I said, day trading a 5-minute time frame, as long as that upward trend line is holding on the 1 hour time frame that we just looked at. For longs as well, pullbacks down to that 4 hour zone could be decent as well at 26.36. Or if this supply zone is removed, leaving us with a demand zone there, we could look for longs off of that zone like that if we do get a zone there. Those are basically the three options for longs. Now and I do prefer longs because of the trends to the upside. However, doesn't mean you can't look for a potential short trade. I could be bullish long-term on gold, but think we could get a move down to demand and catch a 3-to-1 move off of this zone. So for shorts, This is the supply zone I'd be looking at 27.21. It is a good supply zone. You could see a move off of that supply for short trades, and that's really going to be about it here on gold. Remember, manage risk accordingly, take profit accordingly. Along down here, you could look for a massive move to target the high, but for a short trade, the move is counter trend, so it might be best to take profit at 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 or 3-to-1 instead of looking for those 5-to-1 trades. So remember, always take into account the higher time frame trends to see how much profit you can get out of a potential trade. But that's my analysis on gold. Remember, guys, any questions at all, do not hesitate to leave a comment and ask. On to the forecast for the USDJPY higher time frame, multiple time frame analysis. First, on the weekly time frame, we have that beautiful drop-based drop supply zone at 156.07. Right here, it is currently in control and it is being respected at this time. We could push back into it. I just wanted to point that out, that with a higher time frame supply and control, we pretty much have to favor shorts. It doesn't mean we can't look for a potential long trade. If you guys go back to last week's Forex forecast, I pointed out this supply zone that was removed and this supply zone above. Before this supply zone was removed right here, we did get a reaction off of it and broke the trend line. So a beautiful setup off of that first daily supply zone. And what that means is we could be seeing a move off of the supply zone above. I always like when a supply zone or demand zone has a clear area of resistance or support right above it or below it. So I think it's a great potential still trading setup at 156.22. This is a confirmation trade on a 4-hour time frame. Basically, price pushed up, weekly supply became in control. We waited for demand zones to be removed and upward trend lines to be removed, and it was removed by this supply zone, which is why we already got a trade off of it. And then this supply zone is the origin of the entire move. So we definitely could see a move off of that 4-hour supply zone. I still think it is a valid trading setup that we could see work. So that is the nearest area for a potential short trade. Now, we did get a we did get a long trade from this 1-hour demand zone. Price pushed down. We had a trend line. We had a 1-hour demand zone. We were basically looking for a confirmation trade. So if we go to a 5-minute time frame, and this is the same thing that we are doing on that 4-hour chart, but just different time frames. You can see here, we had the overall 1-hour demand zone. So that's very similar to the weekly supply. It's just, this is the 1-hour chart is a higher time frame in this instance. We pushed down. We started to break some supply zones here, broke a downward trend line as well, and we broke that with this area of demand right here on the 5-minute time frame, and we caught this beautiful pullback setup off of that 5-minute demand zone. So this 5-minute demand zone is basically like the 4-hour time frame above. It's the same thing, but just on different time frames. 2 confirmation entries, but on different time frame sequences. And this was a trade that we called out from the daily market breakdown videos. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links in the description down below. So like I said, to summarize, as far as the USDJPY goes, we've already got the counter move 1-hour demand zone trade from the 5-minute confirmation. The weekly supply is in control, so we're basically waiting for a 4-hour supply zone to be contacted to look for a confirmation trade off of that 4-hour area of supply. So patience is going to be required here, and if we do break the supply zone on the 4-hour chart, then we could be seeing a little bit more bullishness here in the JPY. But for now, basically just waiting for that 4-hour supply zone to be hit. On to the forecast for the GBPUSD on the weekly time frame. We now have a weekly area of supply above that broke that weekly demand zone. Now, I'm a little bit surprised it was removed. You guys know I was calling out this demand zone. I'll be completely honest with you guys here. I thought this demand zone would work. I'm not hiding anything. Go back, watch the past weekly Forex forecast. I was excited about that demand zone, and it was respected twice and then eventually removed. So that has left us with a drop-based drop weekly supply at 1.29. However, if you look here, we haven't broke this upward trend line yet. So I'm not super bearish on the pound long term. If we do close below this trend line, it makes this supply zone even better. And we could see a massive swing trade off of that supply zone. But I just wanted to start off here at the weekly chart and say there is a weekly supply zone formed above. How do we trade this one? Well, in my opinion, it is shorts all the way at this time. Looking at a 4-hour chart here, we have a beautiful 4-hour downward trend line. So as long as this downward trend line is being respected, 15-minute time frame shorts are going to be completely fine. And pullbacks up to this base drop supply zone at 1.27 could also be good for a deeper pullback short trade on the pound. On the 1-hour time frame here, we also have a 1-hour downward trend indicated by this downward arrow. So as long as this supply zone is holding, you could be looking for shorts on a 5-minute chart. I would prefer the 15-minute time frame shorts over the 5-minute chart shorts. The nearest zone is this base drop supply at 1.25 on the 1-hour chart. So pullbacks up to that supply zone could be good for a potential short trade. And like I said, as before, confirmation could always be good in here as well. A little 5-minute time frame short, just like we did on the USDJPY, like I just told you guys. You could do the same thing here on this base drop supply zone, but it is with the trend. So honestly, it's looking pretty good for a potential move to the downside. So it's day trading shorts all the way. Pullbacks up to the 4-hour and the 1-hour supply zones could also be good here on the GBPUSD. On to the forecast for the USDCAD. This is the country that I am from. Let me know where you guys are from in the comments down below. On the daily chart here, I pointed out this demand zone last week. We had a supply zone here, was pretty much respected, eventually was blown through by this rally demand zone at 1.39. So with this demand zone in control, with an upward trend, we definitely should be favoring longs in my opinion. Not seeing a strong move, but if you look here, we are currently respecting this daily zone, so we want to be favoring longs. But we do have a little bit of an issue here, and the issue was, well, actually, we got a nice trade off this 1-hour zone. This is a zone I've been pointing out in the daily market breakdown videos as well. So that zone has worked out, but if you missed that trade, how do we trade that? Well, just like we look for confirmation, we had a downward trend line removed. Perfect, that's looking great. However, there isn't a demand zone that removed it. So there's not really a confirmation trade here. Technically, there is some sort of demand here based off of how it looks. Not really a zone I would have felt comfortable trading, I'll be honest with you guys. So how do we trade this now with no zone and we want to be looking for longs? It's kind of unfortunate, but it's going to be difficult to trade that unless you just took that whole daily zone, which I'm sure none of you really did. But what we need to see now is pretty much a break of this high, because then we would have an upward trend on a 1-hour chart, and then that would be an indication that, hey, that daily demand zone that came in control down below, that's holding. So now we have an H1 uptrend. Then what that means is we could be looking for longs on a 5-minute time frame, as long as this upward trend line is holding on the 1-hour chart. But we don't have that yet. So map out this high, take your trend tool or whatever you do, map out the high. Once that high is removed, that indicates, like I said, a 1-hour trend. And then at that point, what you would be essentially doing is you waited for a higher time frame daily demand to become in control down there. We waited for a shift of momentum in the 1-hour chart. We waited for a 1-hour trend, and now you are buying with that 1-hour trend to basically, going back to the daily chart, to basically trade at this daily zone and target the high of price here to continue the move up. So lots of profit margin. Hopefully this plan makes sense. In my opinion, it makes perfect sense. So wait for that 1-hour trend on the USDCAD. That is the only setup that I'm seeing at this time. On to the forecast for the AUDUSD weekly chart on my top right screen. You can see, yes, we are into a weekly zone. However, it's not a great weekly zone. It's been tested so much, so it's not really anything that I would be too concerned about. Looking at the daily chart, we have some demand zones being removed. So we have a very clear downward trend. So shorts all the way here, in my opinion, on the Aussie US dollar until otherwise. So on the 4-hour chart, we don't really have a whole lot. I shouldn't say that. We do have a good supply zone above at 0.66, but we're so far away from it. But if we do pull back up to it, I think it's an area we could see a move off of to the downside. So, if we do happen to get a big pullback in the Aussie, it's not going to be super bullish until we can remove this 4-hour supply. So that would be our supply zone we could look for a short off of. Remember, it is with the overall daily downward trend. So, the great thing about using multiple time frame analysis is if we get a move like this on the Aussie, a lot of these rookie traders are going to be on a 5-minute chart, 1-minute chart thinking, wow, we got to be trading with this quote unquote trend. I'm doing air brackets with my hands right now, this trend. And the daily trend is down, and it could be looking like, wow, all signs are pointing to the upside. But really, when you zoom out, we are really trending down here. So it's definitely a decent little 4-hour supply zone we could see a move off of if we do get that bigger move. In the meantime, we have a 1-hour supply zone above. I'm almost positive I pointed out this supply last week. Sometimes I forget and I don't always mark everything down because it's I don't know, I don't really care sometimes, but I think it's a supply zone we caught. Let me know in the comments down below if you go back and watch the video to see if I did call that one out. Let me know. I'm not going to go back and watch it, but on the 1-hour chart, we have a beautiful 1-hour downward trend. We had a very clear valley, and then we had a clear peak, and we broke that low, and that has given us this downward trend line. So that is a great sign for potential shorts. So if you missed this 1-hour supply zone short, that's completely fine. What you could be doing now, let me just zoom out here for a bit. What you could be doing now is monitoring this 1-hour downward trend line, and as long as it's holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be completely fine. There isn't really much down here that's going to hold up price. There is some sort of buying demand area down here, but nothing that I have marked out as far as my chain analysis goes. So it is shorts all the way. Not only is it with a 1-hour downward trend, it's with a daily downward trend as well. I don't know what I'm drawing, but it's with a overall daily downward trend as well. So things are looking really weak. And I think it's shorts all the way. And like I said, if we get a nice pullback up to supply, it could be used for a potential swing trade as well. Maybe a day trade inside of that 4-hour supply zone to turn into a massive swing trade. Turn a day trade into a swing trade kind of ideal. So again, to summarize, daily downward trend, 1-hour downward trend, it's shorts all the way here on the Aussie US dollar. On to the forecast for the USDCHF on the weekly time frame first. We've been pointing out this weekly supply since it was created back in August, I believe, and we did push up to it. Not really respecting, and we have pushed in, I would say, about 80% of the way into the zone. Does that mean the zone's going to break for sure? No. I've been trading for quite a long time. I have seen this where we hit right to the extreme of the zone and then boom, drop. So it is possible we do react off the supply. However, this is not a great sign to suggest that this supply is going to hold. I will say that. So I don't want to be completely ignoring that supply, but honestly, the momentum is really strong at this time. So what I would be doing is focusing on this 4-hour time frame. Clear peak, clear valley, very clear upward trend. Not only that, we removed a supply zone with this rally-based rally demand zone down here at 0.88. Is it a great demand zone? Not really. It's not amazing. It doesn't really stand out. Wow, it's absolutely incredible. However, it did remove a high and it did break supply. That rhymes. Wow, should become a rapper. But it's a good zone as far as what it accomplished, as far as how it looks, not the best. However, a pullback down to this 4-hour zone could be good to trade in potentially long at 0.88. Since the zone isn't too great looking, it's kind of a weird looking zone with this wick and that wick, you could just use it for a higher time frame and look for a confirmation trade on a 15-minute or even a 5-minute chart. I think both of those would be acceptable inside of that zone. And remember, it is with the trend. Let's say we pull back down here, don't hit the zone, but the trend line's respected. At any time, 15-minute time frame shorts are going to be good as long as that upward trend line is being respected here on the USD Swiss. Now, since that weekly supply is in control, like I said, we could technically be looking for shorts as well. It is technically higher odds to be looking for shorts with that weekly supply in control, but I wouldn't be shorting until we can get a move like this where we not only break the demand zone, but we break the upper trend line as well. And if there's a 4-hour supply zone, I'll have that zone out for the members and we could get a trade off of that supply zone there. But I would not be shorting until we can get a move like this. So in the meantime, it is longs all the way off the 4-hour demand zone and as long as that upper trend line is holding on the USDCHF. Last but not least, we are on to the forecast for crude oil. Higher time frame analysis first. The trends are in fact down on the weekly time frame, so things are looking weak overall. But even when we have a weekly downtrend, it doesn't mean that we won't get a potential pullback. And there is a clear area of resistance here we could hesitate around, but the real supply is above at 74.70. So just because we have a weekly downward trend, trends don't just go like this. Boom. Trends go like this. Right? So can we catch these moves to the upside? Absolutely. So I'm going to point out a potential setup down and coming up, but I just want to say we could be retracing up to this daily supply at 74.70. So I think it's a good area. I'm not going to be super bullish on oil until we can remove that daily supply. I want to be very clear on that. So as far as longs go, if you are long, day trading longs are going to be preferred. I'll show you guys here in a minute, but profit margin is to that daily supply and nothing really more until that supply zone can be removed. As far as a 4-hour chart goes here, this downward trend line looks like it wants to be removed pretty much. It's not yet, but if we do get a close above here, there will be a demand zone down here for myself and the members on my chart. So that could be kind of the zone we could be looking for. If you want to jump the gun on longs, a pullback down to that 4-hour demand zone could be good at 67.77. Nice little drop-based rally demand zone. Beautiful move to the upside off of that low there. So that would be the nearest 4-hour zone. As far as the 1-hour chart goes, we do have a demand zone down below. It's not amazing. It's a very obvious pivot, but at 70.03, we could see a move off of that 1-hour zone there. And at any time, we have a 1-hour upward trend. So 5-minute time frame longs are going to be good as long as that 1-hour trend line is holding here on crude oil. If you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.